So Bryan, this is courtesy of Meltzer Says What, the GOAT. All Elite Wrestling tweet out, Mina and Emmy are using the referee to both of their advantages, right? I don't want to play this clip. We will get Dawn Stevens, but, you know, Mina and Emmy are like fighting over the ref. Can you guys see that if you're watching on the corner? This is hilarious. Let's just watch it. Bryan tries to explain basic booking psychology to Dave and the problems with how Tony Khan books. Dave, while trying to rationalize the booking, ends up making all of Bryan's points for him. Tremendous stuff. Oh, Bryan, which I need on the board. And also, Bryan doesn't get a pass with me, as I've covered on the show numerous times. He does not get a pass. I get it. He's standing up to Dave, etc., but he still does delusional all the time. He did it with the whole Phoenix thing and all of that. But anyways, here is a couple clips. I hope you guys get a kick out of this.
Give him a quick squash win just to show that, like, you know, he's not a loser.
Yes. So this was good because it was not 50-50. It was a one-sided destruction. Okay.
Well, short. That's what they do. They have two kinds of matches. They have the competitive matches and they have the squash matches.
Yes. This is a gigantic problem with this company, Dave.
And the squash matches are only 2 minutes. That's the problem.
So they only have. So, and I like that Alvarez is trying to point out, here's a gigantic problem. Now, he's still shilling for the money, and Alvarez is, but he's pointing this out because he's trying to convince Dave, like, no, we got to be critical of this too. And also, Alvarez isn't as welcome in those circles. Like, yeah, he's friends with the Bucks, but they, like, worship Dave. They don't really care for Bryan, you know? A lot of these guys. He's just like the little whipping boy, and I want him to know that. Basically, Bryan's saying, this is a tremendous problem. And Dave's like, they only have squash matches or these long matches. So what Phil Mark said 2 years ago, you assholes. So what I've been saying forever, what a bunch of us have been saying forever, what JD and them are just picking up on now, what we've been saying forever, what Meltzer's finally, oh, they only do. Yes, exactly. They only have very short squashes, or they do these like take to the limit squashes where it's like Marco Stunt goes 8 minutes with Archer, where he's like kind of escaping his moves and then it goes to it's like they don't know the right balance, right? Or it's these long take it to the limit, which those 8-minute Marco Stunt versus Archer is the same thing. They booked a Benjamin squash match properly, but how much do you guys want to bet that MVP was like, no, they go 4 minutes and you know what I mean? Benjamin gets it in and then beats the kid or whatever.
Here's the thing, okay?
Yes.
Because it was the very next match. It is Mina Shirakawa and Emi Sakura, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Mina Shirakawa is getting a world championship match on Wednesday, okay? They did not need to do the match they did here. She sold and sold and sold and sold and like for minutes on end. And she finally wins with 2 sling blades. And I was just like, why can't she just like run through Emi Sakura? Do you realize, Dave, Emi Sakura has never won a single solitary match ever in AEW on television.
Boom. I love Emmy. I felt like they turned her up early in AEW too, as far as the crowd was into her, and she trained a lot of these Japanese girls that they were bringing over. So it's like, have her, because she can actually work, but she's like 50 now. She can work anyone. She can work the American girls and the Japanese girls. Have her bring in like an army of these Joshis. Figure out a way to introduce these people in a way that's compelling. Emmy is just a girl. I pointed it out for 2 years on the show. She shows up, she loses to whoever's about to get a title shot or whatever. That's her only job. Bryan's trying to explain that to Dave, lays out a fact. I'm actually going to rewind that a bit because, dude, he lays out a stat. She's never won a match in AEW's history. She's been there the whole time. Why would she take Mina Shirakawa to the limit on a collision? I guess because nobody's watching it. What is the excuse? What's the reason there? What is Tony and Dave texting? Or do they even think of this? Are they just marks? I don't get it, right? And Bryan has to be the voice of reason here. And he's a Muppet. He watches Tony and Dave hold hands and he's got to sit there and he's like, that was my friend, you know? Bryan just sits there in the corner and takes it. You know what I mean? This whole thing to me is hilarious that Bryan's got to be the voice of reason. But just again, why is Mina, who's getting a title shot, regardless of the outcome of this match, doing all these spots and being taken to the limit by Emmy, who's never won a match? Oh, well, they wrestled in Japan and
ever won a single solitary match ever in AEW on television. Ever.
Yep.
The only matches she has ever won were back when they had Dark.
Mhm.
She has never won on television, and she's dominating Mina Shirakawa, who has a world title match on Wednesday.
Mhm.
I feel like we need different kinds of matches. Like, sometimes they should be 50-50. Like the Continental Classic. Fine, they should all be 50-50. Sometimes you should have
The Continental Classic, every match should be 50-50. That's why Bryan doesn't get a pass with me. That's not fine.
a squash like Beast Mortos and Aaron Solo. Sometimes Mina Shirakawa should dominate Emi Sakura because she's getting a title match on Wednesday, not 50-50. And it wasn't even 50-50. It was like Emi took 80% of this match.
Yeah, well.
And it wasn't even a good match.
Yeah, well, the time limits on Deadline were bad, though. They didn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it didn't mean anything to me. It was just a match.
Didn't mean anything to me. It's just a match. This is why no one takes you seriously. This is why you suck, Dave. This is why you're not credible anymore. This is why you're not the observer, because you're too dumb to observe that. You observe things like, at 24 minutes, if the match is only 25 minutes, that means there's only 60 seconds left. That's the end. Did you know that, Bryan? And then it comes to this, and he's like, well, didn't mean to me. It was just a match.
The best guys, Tony Khan.
How do you say that? So you're not analyzing like what the number one contender for the women's title's doing. Like you don't care about that, but you're worried about the time limit on a time limit stipulation match. Phil.
That's the problem, Dave. It should mean something to you because Mina is getting a title
Boom.
match on.
That's the problem, Dave. It should mean something to you. This was not Aaron Solo versus Commander for nothing. This is for the number one contender going into a pay-per-view. And the problem with the company, we talk about the TV ratings that you can't stop talking about. Meanwhile, your same shill idiot parrots who orbit you are trying to create this narrative TV ratings don't matter, but that's all Dave harps on. So the TV ratings are why? Maybe because of things like this, Dave, but it was just a match. Well, exactly, Dave. When they're all just matches, people don't care. Just a match. Exactly, Dave. Why should we care? You're like, I didn't really care. It was just another match. Then why should anyone care? How don't you understand? And Bryan has to say, well, that's exactly the problem. You just don't care because it's just another match. If all the people who just don't care, who just want to watch another match, want to do that, fine. But stop talking about WWE. Stop trying to say, we're doing the biggest gate and we're coming for all the promoters before me. Just shut the up and do a YouTube show like MLW and just do the matches. And it's crazy to me, man. It's really insane.
Wednesday. She'd be like, wow, look at this Mina Shirakawa. Holy smoke, she could win the title on Wednesday.
You know what the problem is, Bryan? And then he's just Frank Mortis wasn't on TV.
Well,
that's what he said.
And it wasn't even a good match.
Yeah, well.
And it wasn't even a good match.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it didn't mean anything to me. It was just a match.
That's the problem, Dave. It should mean something to you because Mina is getting a title match on Wednesday. She'd be like, wow, look at this Mina Shirakawa. Holy smoke, she could win the title on Wednesday.
You know what the problem is? Is Mina Shirakawa and Emi Sakura.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a big problem.
The problem is that they're from Japan, right? And
so them being from Japan is a problem, Dave.
In Japan, it's like Emi Sakura is like someone that is kind of revered.
Okay, kind of revered in Japan. So what the does that mean in America? So, she's kind of revered in Japan. Nobody watches AEW in Japan, stupid. So what are we talking about? Why would that matter at all? Why did that matter at all? She's kind of revered in Japan. Wow. So at 10 p.m. Eastern on Collision in Fishers, Indiana or whatever, they should do that match and have Emi take her to the limit. Well, they got to protect Emi. Well, then don't put her in the match. Be a booker. Do some psychology. Maybe people would like this show again. So these are the problems. Well, they're making the most money next year. No one cares. No one gives a about that. Well, you all care that WWE's making money. Yes, because you're trying to talk like the money AEW's making is anything in the grand scheme of this. Because you all keep saying, oh, look at this Challenger brand, Challenger to TNA. To who? To what are you talking about? Oh, no, that's not actually true. Oh, you guys are obsessed? Old 90s podcasters? Geeks, man.
So it's like she ain't going to go in there and disrespect a legend.
Dave,
So
who's the booker here?
Yes.
Nobody's the booker.
Nobody's the booker. Oh,
The best guy's Tony Khan.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Nobody's the booker. They just show up to work, and Khan's like, "You guys can do whatever you want."
They just go
Well,
out
that's
there
a problem then.
Oh my god! So Dave has literally given Booker of the Year award to a who nobody's
the best
booker.
guy's Tony Khan.
What the is going on here, you guys? Don't you love PWT, man? Where the else do? I love it, right in my veins, you guys. This is why I wanted to start with Dave this week, because it was like too much good stuff in here, you know? Amazing. This is just amazing.
There's got to be somebody that says, hold on a second. This is not a 50-50 match today, okay?
Yeah, well, that's
you know, that's his answer to everything. Well, in AEW, you get lots of money and you get to just kind of do what you want, so it's still the best wrestling show.
true. There should be in this situation, but they usually leave it up to the talent, and it didn't surprise me at all because
listen to that sigh. They leave it up to the talent, which doesn't surprise me at all. So Dave, say that it's bad. So like, here's the thing. He's like, well, there should be a booker, but he leaves it to the talent. So So that's a problem in AEW. You just act like there's no problems in AEW and you deflect. Even Bryan's getting fed up. Now, Bryan doesn't get a pass from me yet. Maybe one day, but I'm still holding his feet to the fire too. But thank God he's there at least saying this so that I can come here and break this down here, okay? Because it's not like Dave's still in his bubble. It doesn't matter if Bryan's like, you know, he just takes it. Like I told you, Bryan just takes it and he just sits here and he's going to go insane, right? One of these days. Bryan's not innocent here either. However, thank God he's at least doing this, because otherwise we wouldn't get Dave challenged in any way. He's so much in his bubble. You guys get the point I'm trying to get at? Like, there's no way to really challenge or break down his psychology unless Bryan's willing to push back a little bit. We can laugh at the ridiculous things he says, but when you see how he reacts to people who actually challenge him directly, like in person, verbally, you see his just, but, you know, well, I mean, but I didn't care. Like, you just see how he completely folds. So I do give Alvarez points for that.
And it didn't surprise me at all because in Mina Shirakawa's eyes, it's like, I'm not going to, I have great respect for this woman. I ain't going to eat her up.
Then don't have the match cut a promo.
So that's what they did. I mean, it's not again, it's like, that's just the mentality that she's going to have. So there you go.
So it's not on Tony Khan. He blames Mina Shirakawa for that.
The best guy's Tony Khan.
It's not Mina's fault that she's like, oh, Emmy's a legend, so I can't just job her quickly. It's not Tony's fault for being like, maybe we shouldn't put Mina in there then with Emmy. It's Mina's fault. And it's the fans' faults when they don't react to it. It's everyone's fault but Tony Khan, because Dave and Tony Khan are best friends. Meltzer said post this in 2019, and he just wanted to remind everybody. So he says, the most inappropriate thing ever. This is back in 2019, okay? The most inappropriate thing ever, which is impossible not to laugh at Alvarez's sideshow Bob Rake routine, as Vinny highlights at the end. And then part 2, Vinny, should we just review Monday Night Raw instead? Brian, no. So just a quick reminder, this is a little time machine action here. Time Cop. We're going back to 2019, but it's actually 2024, but it's close to 2025. But Ray Phoenix's contract is up in 2026. Time Cop.
Give me a good song here. What cannot fail?
Cannot fail, you say? Should we just review Monday Night Raw instead?
No! All right, let's play a song here. And then we will.
So there's Bryan in 2019 should we just review Raw? He's like, no, it's so bad. Here is Bryan. Like, no, I'll do anything to get away from Raw. Here's him again all these years later.
All right, before we get to Raw, also about these MMA handicap bouts in Poland.
On the Wrestling Observer Radio. Like, these guys are such anti-WWE. Liar! So Bryan doesn't get a pass from me. Okay, my UFC MMA segments I do always directly relate to pro wrestling. I always tie it to pro wrestling in some way. This is like, all right, before we go on to review Raw on our Wrestling Observer Radio show, let's talk about handicap Polish MMA bouts, which I don't think means handicap people. I think it's like, 4 against 3. They do that in Poland and Russia. That's what you're talking about before we get to Raw. It's crazy. This is why you guys don't get it. This is why Bryan doesn't get a pass with me. He's still willing to, like, why would you even talk about that? That, ladies and gentlemen, as we just take a look at this one more time, the Great Rampage show only did this rating. The Great Dave Meltzer Dumb Moment of the Week segment did a tremendous rating. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Great Dave Meltzer Dumb Moment of the Week. And E-flutes because it's so great.